We open on a narrow road in rural Pennsylvania. It's 1968, and siblings Barbara and Johnny have been stuck in a car for a 3-hour drive that neither of them wants to be on. They aren't here for a vacation. They're only making this trek because it's their mother's wish to place flowers on their father's grave once a year. Johnny is already in peak professional hater mode. He's complaining about the distance, the time wasted, and the price of the flowers they had to buy. He even floats a conspiracy theory that the cemetery staff just waits for people to leave so they can steal the ornaments and resell them the next day. He might be right though, the cemetery business is a shady one. But his constant bickering gives us a perfect look at their family dynamic before things starts to get weird. As they pull into the graveyard, the car radio finally catches a signal. An announcer starts to apologize for earlier technical issues and is just about to broadcast a critical emergency warning. But Johnny, who has zero patience left, snaps the radio off. He's finally reached the destination and just wants to get out of the car to catch up with Barbara, who is already walking ahead. It's a small move, but it effectively seals their fate in a total information blackout. While Barbara tries to have a respectful moment of prayer at the grave, Johnny decides to entertain himself by weaponizing some childhood trauma. He starts chanting in that creepy, mocking voice. "They're coming for you, Barbara." Like used to do when they were kids, he's leaning so hard into the annoying sibling trope that it feels like a typical 60s melodrama, until a pale, tattered man appears in the distance. Johnny points him out, laughing and pretending to run away like he's being chased. He thinks he's committed to the bit, but surprise, the guy is actually a zombie. And he is for real coming for Barbara, you annoying little shit. The stranger lunges at Barbara and Johnny finally tries to play the hero. But in the shortest, most underwhelming fight of a body rub in history, Johnny trips, hits his head on a cold gravestone and dies instantly. So basically Johnny spent his last 5 minutes being a jerk to his sister, only to get taken out by a piece of granite before the movie even hit the 10-minute mark, talking about a befitting end for a bully. Now Barbara is in a full-blown panic. She scrambles back to the car and locks the doors, only to realize she's trapped because the keys were in Johnny's pocket. The dead guy starts smashing the window with a rock, which honestly is a surprisingly high IQ move for a zombie. Barbara manages to knock the car into neutral, which is also a surprisingly high IQ move for a Barbara. The car is rolling down the hill until it eventually crashes into a tree. She bolts from the vehicle and sprints toward a nearby farmhouse, breaking in through the back door while the guy is still after her. The place isn't specifically very welcoming. It's very quiet and full of creepy preserved animal heads hanging on the walls. She tries the phone, but it's dead. She peeks out the window and realizes her stalker has made some new friends. They are roaming outside the house looking for dinner. Terrified, she runs upstairs and finds a half-eaten corpse of a woman, which really completes the stay-away vibe of the house. Frightened out of her mind, she bolted out the front door, right into the arms of the dwelling zombies outside. Luckily, she runs into a stranger named Ben who just got there. He gets her back inside and saves her life. Unlike Barbara, who has basically become a human screensaver after seeing the human leftovers upstairs, Ben is all about business. He's got that manager energy in him, the kind of guy who takes over a group project because he knows everyone else is going to mess it up. He starts dragging furniture, smashing tables for wood, and boarding up every window and door in the place. While Ben is busy with this apocalypse-style home renovation, he tries to communicate with Barbara, who is still in shock. He starts talking about the horrors he saw before arriving, and Barbara finally opens up about the cemetery. She insists they have to go back for Johnny, thinking he's just unconscious, but Ben refuses because in his mind it's a suicide mission. When she tries to force her way out to get her brother, Ben blocks her and she actually slaps him. So he slaps her right back and she faints. Which is, for the 1968 audience, is probably horror inside the horror. They had the literal zombie scares firsthand, and they also had a black protagonist taking complete charge of the situation and subverting every social norm of the time. While Barbara is in her coma mood, Ben finds a radio and turns it on. He also figures out that these things are scared of fire, so he drags a sofa chair to the porch and sets it ablaze to drive them back from the house. He even finds a rifle and a box of bullets, which probably will come in handy later. When Barbara finally wakes up, Ben finds her a pair of shoes and even helps her put them on. He tries to talk to her as if he didn't just slap the life out of her, but she keeps giving him the ultimate silent treatment that translates to "we're not friends anymore." Ben eventually heads upstairs to deal with that half-eaten corpse, and that's when he hears a rumble from below. We get the movie's biggest surprise, when two guys, Harry and Tom, who were hiding in the cellar this whole time, decide to burst out of there as if they on Black Friday sales hunt, to give poor Barbara another heart attack. We find out that there are more people down there: Tom's girlfriend Judy, Harry's wife Helen Cooper, and their daughter Karen, who's very ill and can hardly move. Giving all that, Ben is rightfully pissed. He finds out they've been chilling downstairs all this time while ignoring Barbara's screams for help, and him boarding up the house fighting off zombies. When Ben calls them out, Harry just shrugs and says he won't risk his life based on someone's scream. This immediately sets the picture for Ben of what kind of person Harry is. He's just someone who is 100% looking out for number one. The argument over the cellar heats up. Harry wants everyone downstairs, while Tom sides with Ben about staying up where they can actually see what's coming. Mid-shouting match, the zombies decide to join the conversation. They break through the window and reach with their hands, grabbing Ben from his shirt. Tom immediately jumps in to help him. He picks up a knife and starts slashing the dead people's hands. And this is where things get grotesque. The zombies' fingers are falling off like dry twigs and they don't even flinch. Ben shoots them, but they keep coming back like it's nothing until he finally lands a headshot. The whole time this life and death struggle is happening, Harry is just standing there watching. He's shouting "it's all right" to his wife Helen, who is asking from the cellar what's going on, but he doesn't actually help. Once the situation is cleared, Harry basically says, "I told you so," and retreats back to the cellar, announcing he's locking the door and won't open it for anyone. So Tom asks his girlfriend Judy to come upstairs, and they leave the Coopers to their basement fortress. Harry barricades the door and tells Helen that the people upstairs are idiots who are going to regret everything. Helen doesn't let him off easy, though. She points out the obvious. Harry doesn't actually care about safety as much as he cares about his ego and being proven right all the time. When Helen finds out there's a radio and a TV upstairs, she finally snaps. She realizes Harry's stronghold is actually a sensory deprivation tank, and they are totally isolated from the only sources of information. Helen then takes over the diplomacy. She's the one who actually fixes the group dynamic. She makes a deal with Tom. She and Harry will come upstairs and help if Judy stays in the cellar to watch over their sick daughter Karen. It's a pragmatic move that finally gets everyone on the same page. Unfortunately, the bullet's sound seems to attract more zombies, and they start gathering around the house, which indicates that the survivors need to calculate their next move very wisely. While finally all the survivors manage to get to work together, they catch that infamous news report. They hear about a satellite returning from Venus and the radiation causing the dead to rise. Apparently the space race was moving a lot faster in the movie than in real life. It's 1968 and they are already on Venus. What the hell were they doing on Venus, one might ask. The news anchor looks absolutely miserable, like he can't believe he has to announce that the dead are eating the living, and that everyone needs to start aiming for the head or grab a flamethrower. The report mentions rescue centers, and the group realizes that one of these centers is about 17 miles away from where they are right now, according to Tom's calculations. Since the only vehicle they have is Ben's truck that is out of gas, they need to get it to the pump at the back of the farmhouse, which is the whole reason Ben drove here in the first place, but he couldn't manage to use it because it's locked. Harry mentions finding some keys in the other room, so Tom looks into them and finds a set labeled GasPump. Ben is not sure if he can drive the truck again. It's not actually his, he just found it abandoned by the road. Tom steps in and volunteers to take the wheel. Judy is not very sure about leaving the house, but Tom convinces her it's their only shot and they need to act quick. Ben orchestrates the plan. Harry is going to throw jars of Molotov cocktail around the truck to drive the dead away while he and Tom get to the truck and drive to the pump. The moment they open the door, it's chaos. As Ben and Tom burst out, Judy ignores the danger and sprints right after them. Harry tries to block her, but she gets past him and jumps into the truck claiming shotgun. Harry doesn't waste a second being sentimental. He immediately slams the door shut and locks it, leaving the three of them to the mercy of the zombie yard. When they reach the pump, we discover that the keys are a total bust. Quick thinking, Ben puts the torch down and uses the rifle to blow off the lock. But in the panic of the moment, Tom sprays gasoline everywhere, declaring himself the Darwin Award winner of the year. He manages to douse the truck in fuel while a live torch is sitting right next to it. Everything goes up in flames. Tom tries to save the truck and drive it away while Ben frantically tries to keep the fire from reaching the pump. When realizing there is no hope of saving the truck, Tom decides it's time to abandon ship, but Judy gets stuck, and with a split second the truck explodes in defiance to all laws of physics. But hey, it's 1968. Sarcastically, it leaves you wondering if Michael Bay saw this as a kid and just based his entire personality around it. And just like that, the only two likable people in the movie become a roadside barbecue. They didn't even get to make it out of the driveway before becoming a zombie buffet. Ben is now forced to retreat to the house alone on foot, fighting through a swarm of zombies after he had to watch his new friends get roasted. He reaches the door, screaming for Harry to let him in, but Harry is hesitant about it, so he just keeps standing there panicking, sweating, and most probably shitting himself. So Ben kicks the door in with his foot, and once he is in, he gives Harry the look of utter disappointment, probably like the ones Helen gives him after sexual intercourse, and Harry seems well used to that look. After securing the door with Harry's help, Ben immediately starts throwing punches and gives Harry the well-deserved beatdown we've been waiting for. And to add insult to injury, Ben had to witness through the window ghouls gathering around the burned-out truck and having a literal fiesta. The house goes deathly quiet for a second. The remaining survivors use that silence to huddle around the TV for one last update. While discussing their next move, the broadcast is back on. Apparently, the radiation exposure is getting worse. They show a field report where a local posse, led by Sheriff Conan McClelland, is successfully clearing the area in a nearby town from all the infected. Just as the report ends, the power cuts out, plunging the house into a pitch-black nightmare. Like if it was the moment the zombies have been waiting for, they start picking up rocks and tools to break in, showing they still have some lingering intelligence. Ben is defending the window and Helen is backing up the front door, and of course Harry is just standing there observing them and taking notes. Ben accidentally drops his rifle while dealing with the window breach, and in a moment of pure backstabbing, like a vulture waiting for a mistake. Harry lunges for it immediately. He points the gun at Ben, telling Helen to get down the cellar. But Helen refuses to move. She knows the second she lets go of the door, it's going to be over. Ben is finally done with Harry's bullshit. He jumps him and manages to get hold of the rifle, shooting Harry in the gut. Harry uses his last bit of strength to stumble into the basement, dying right next to his daughter. The defense finally collapses. The front door that Helen is backing up with her body starts to fall apart. Zombies reach through the shattered wood with their pale hands, grabbing at her while she screams in terror. In a surprising twist, Ben disappears from the frame and Barbara, who's been a ghost all this time, finally steps up to try and help Helen. But it's too much for them to handle. Helen breaks away and bolts for the cellar. When Helen gets to the bottom of the stairs, she witnesses the most disgusting, horrific image. Her own daughter, who turns out she's been infected from an earlier bite in the arm, is hunched over, chewing on her father's corpse. Before Helen can even process the sight, Karen starts walking towards her with an absolute deadpan look on her face, picks up a garden spade and starts stabbing her own mother over and over. Upstairs, the ghouls finally pour in. Tragically, Barbara's only moment of bravery is what leads to her brutal ending. Remember when Johnny said, "They're coming for you, Barbara"? Well, he wasn't lying. He just didn't mention he'd be the one leading the tour group. He performs his last deadly prank on her with a very proud, dim look on his face that almost convinces you that the guy can still be excited to put the fear in his sister even when dead. Ben is the last one left. He realizes the upstairs battle is done for and retreats slowly towards the cellar door and almost gets taken out by the sneaky Daughter of the Year award winner Karen Cooper. But Ben won't fall for that, so he pushes her aside and gets quickly into the cellar, the very place he called a death trap. He has to shoot the reanimated Harry and Helen just to get a moment of peace. Morning finally breaks. Sheriff McClelland's team arrives, picking off ghouls like they're on a Sunday hunt. Ben hears the gunfire, thinks he's saved, and peeps through the boarded window, but the posse sees a figure, doesn't even blink, and pop. A single shot to the forehead. Ben falls dead instantly. The officer commends the shooter on a nice shot, and the movie ends with Ben's body being hooked and tossed onto a bonfire with the rest of the morbids. At a time when audiences expected a victory for the hero and a happy ending, George Romero delivered a cynical masterpiece where the greatest threat wasn't the dead, but the breakdown of human cooperation. The film's impact remains massive today because of its uncompromising realism. By casting a black lead that is capable of making decisions, and then having him survive the monsters only to be killed by a rescue party, Romero tapped into the deep-seated social anxieties of the civil rights era. It transformed the zombie from a voodoo puppet into a mirror of society's own failings. Even decades later, the movie's dark irony feels fresh. It reminds us that in a crisis, our own ego, stubbornness, and lack of empathy are often the true problems that lead to our downfall. It's a bleak, brilliant reminder that sometimes the world doesn't end with a bang. It ends with a nice shot from someone who didn't even care to look closer.